Okay, I suggest that you break out your calculator, one of the type that I mentioned on the syllabus, the TI 83 or 84 or 83 plus or silver edition, whatever, but one of those that was mentioned, so we can make sure that your settings are right to do some of the calculator work we'll encounter here in Chapter 3. So first, pull your calculator out, and let me turn mine off. So turn it on. So you can see the on button right there. So get it turned on. And we need to check for your mode. So find the mode button right there. There we go. And when you hit the mode button, there it is. Make sure all the guys here on the left, all the tabs there on the left are dark. If one of these guys happens to be dark, well, I can use my arrows. Well, it's running a little bit slow, so you'll have to bear with me. If one of these guys over here are darkened, all you have to do is arrow over to that area, scoot over to the one, in this case the function one, using the left and right arrow keys, and when you press enter, what that does, it turns it off and turns it on. So enter should darken it, and want to make sure that all these on the left are dark. Let me clear that up a little bit. Okay. So in the mode feature, make sure everybody on the left side is dark. Then you can quit that. Press second and the mode key, and that quits. To get to anything blue, you'll always have to hit the second button, second, and then it'll put it in the mode to get anything blue. I want to make sure your format's okay, so hit second and zoom, which will get you into the format mode, and make sure everybody on the left there is darkened as well. If everybody's dark, press quit. If not, use your arrows to get there and press the enter key to darken it, and that turns it on. So if those are all dark, you can press the second and quit feature to get out of that mode. Let's see, what is the next one I wanted to look at? Your stat plots. Right here at the stat plot, we'll hit second and stat plot, and I need to make sure all your plots are off. Otherwise it'll mess up your graphs. So arrow down here on stat plots, and you'll see the fourth entry there, which is plots off. Just go down there. Whoops. Here we go. Darken number 4. That means that's the one, that's what you're going to, however I want to say that. Let's darken number 4. Hit enter, and what that's going to do is get you at the clear screen and tell you, do you want to turn your plots off? And press enter, and it'll take care of all your stat plots. You don't want your stat plots on. Once the plots are off, press second and quit. And if you want to clear the home screen, you can. And get to this point where now all of our calculators should be doing the same thing. The most important feature that we're going to use here is typing in an equation into the calculator and then getting the calculator to bring that graph up. Right here is where we're going to do that. We're going to use this y equals feature to type in our equation. So press that feature. And you'll have the opportunity to put in about, I think it's 10 functions. Yeah, it goes all the way through 10. Scroll down to make sure there's no obscure thing typed in here, because it'll mess up your graphs. So scroll all the way down, make sure there's nothing typed in there. And let's go to the Y1 position, not the plots, that gets into the stat feature. And I'm going to actually just put this on large screen so you can see. So at y equals, we'll have to type in some equations to graph, some functions to graph, and you're going to have to type in a variable. This particular key right here, the xt theta key, and there's an n actually there, that's where we're going to go to type in our variable. So if we press that, there's our variable x, and then we can decide what we want to do with it. If we wanted to square it, we could hit the x squared key, and what that will do is if we graph it, it'll graph x squared, which is a parabola. I suggest before you hit the graphing key that you make sure your window is in a nice position, a nice standard viewing window, and I will always go to zoom number 6. Right down here you can either type in the number 6 or arrow down to the number 6, but that puts it in a standard viewing window where it's like 10 across, negative 10 to positive 10 on the x-axis, negative 10 to positive 10 on the y-axis, and that's just a good place to get started. So I suggest going to zoom 6, hit the zoom button, you can type in just press the number 6, and that puts you in a standard viewing window. First thing we need, we're going to practice on some more, but that's a spot that we need to make sure we can accomplish in putting in some equations. So we've got that y equal feature. Let me take a look back at the sheet. So we've taken care of the mode, we've looked at stat plots, we checked out the format. There's a caret key that you're going to have to use. It'll be used to raise things to powers. When it's something other than a square that we can't just hit from the keypad, so we'll use the caret key, which you can find right here below the clear button, and that caret will be used to raise to some powers, so be familiar with that one. Putting an equation to be graphed, we just talked about that. We go to y equals, see a listing of several positions, enter equations. You can enter as many equations as you want, just one at a time. If something's there, just go to it and press clear to delete it. And the xt theta key is the spot where you're going to get your variable to type that in. As I mentioned a second ago, zoom 6 is going to be the best window to get started in because it gives you, usually will give you the best picture, and it just sets your axis from negative 10 to positive 10. There are going to be some other features, other operations that we'll need to find, and one is the absolute value, which can be difficult to find, and one place you can go to find it is by pressing the math key and then arrowing to the right to the NUM feature, and you'll find absolute value, but it's not two straight lines, it's the word or the letters ABS for absolute value. Let me show you. If we need to find an absolute value, if we have to do that operation, then we'll go to Math, we'll arrow to the right under NUM, and there's ABS right there at the top. And if I press enter, it pulls in that feature. So that's where we'll find absolute value. Another one is we'll have to work with some cube roots and some higher roots. So let's work on finding the cube root and then work on entering in some higher roots. So cube root is found under math. So let's go back. Let me clear that out. And let's look back under math. And if you need to take the cube root of something, you can see it the fourth feature down. You can either press the number 4 or arrow down to 4, but that gives you the cube root feature. And you can type in whatever you want the cube root of. If you want the cube root of 8, press enter, and it gives you the cube root. If we have to graph something with the cube root, then we'll go to y equals, and we can go to math and pull out that cube root feature. And then type in the x or whatever the argument is that we want to graph. That's under the cube root. So that's where cube root will be found. Let me quit that, clear that. And let's see, what was the other one that was mentioned? Oh yeah, the higher roots. If we want a higher root, fourth root, fifth root, what we have to do is type in the root first. So let's suppose I want the 6th root of something. I have to type in the number 6, then I go to math and pull in this higher root option that's on number 5. And what this does, that little X right there says, okay, what's the root? So that's why you have to type in the root first. This says 6 is really in that position. So the 6th root of, I don't know, whatever, 172. Or how about 175? and press enter. It'll take the 6th root or any other higher root you'd like to work with. But you have to type the root in first. Okay, so going back to the sheet, not sure if we're going to do much with solving an equation on your calculator, but we will use finding these x-intercepts on our calculator using a particular feature under the Calc feature. We're going to need to know how to do that, and we're going to be working on finding x-intercepts of these graphs that we're going to be drawing. Specifically some of these quadratics that we'll see in Chapter 3 and polynomial functions and other ones. So this is going to be an important feature, and I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. So make sure you're familiar with these features, you've got your calculator with the right settings, and you're ready to get started using your graphing calculator.